First of all, I want to thank everybody who came in today. I know the weather was bad. Can everybody hear me? Is good? And Rishi, thank you so much for driving all the way from Ann Arbor, even though we don't kind of really care about Ann Arbor.
Yeah, it was a long drive. So
yeah, so we're gonna start by just we know what underground printing is, but we just want to hear from you as when you started.
Sure.
And what do you do at underground?
What do I do?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll start by saying what underground printing is. So we're a custom printed apparel and collegiate merchandise, local merchandise provider. That's like this general, one-liner. Really, what we try to be is like a very community, local-oriented company, providing apparel promotional products, things like that for groups, businesses, nonprofits, events, etc., etc. So that's what we are, and we've done this. Our kind of unique, how we've done it is through physical locations that we own and run, from stores like the one here, and to offices that we have in bigger cities, and these physical locations. That's how we differentiate. We're all about having a place where someone's there, works, meets people as a part of the community. We did it at a time when everyone else was going online. So all of our competitors, it was all about online. We're like, yeah, we can open up stores. So lucky for us, stores were never, people didn't think stores were gonna survive, but then they did, and it turns out we all like to shop in stores, and they're not going anywhere. And omni-channel is cool, and bricks and mortar plus clicks and mortar and all that good stuff is part of the ecosystem. So what do I do at Underground? I just do a little bit of everything these days. I deal with some bigger sales, IT development. So my partner and I, the person I started Underground with someone I grew up with, a good friend of mine that I grew up with. I'm from the Lansing area. I grew up in Okemos. I went to Okemos High School. We split our tasks up when we call it front of house, back of house. So if you worked in a restaurant, you were either working in front of house or back of house. So I'm front of house and he's back of house. So I'm like sales, marketing, IT, everything forward facing, and he is production, billing, accounting, purchasing, kind of back end.
Gotcha, great. So let's turn the clock a little bit. You started underground printing back in early 2000. And
2001.
2001. And were you an undergrad or?
I was a sophomore.
You were a sophomore.
Yep.
So just go a little bit back. So you went to UMich
Yep.
for a bachelor's in chemical engineering.
Correct.
Did you have the idea in mind, or is it just it clicked when you were in undergrad with a friend who you grew up with?
Yeah, so my backstory is that I decided I wanted to go be a chemical engineer in high school. My dad is a professor of chemical engineering here at Michigan State. I grew up here, and I didn't want to be, I was telling some of you earlier, I didn't want to be in my dad's department. I was like, that sounded like the worst idea, so I left and I wanted to go someplace different. So I went to Michigan, and I decided I wanted to be a chemical engineer because I worked in my dad's lab here. All my friends worked at Little Caesars. I wanted to work there. My dad wanted me to do something educational, so I worked in his lab. But I liked what he did, and I thought, oh wow, I must love chemical engineering. I thought what he did was great. It was only when I was sitting in Thermo 1 sophomore year that I realized that this is not what I was doing. This is not what I thought I was going to love. And it turns out that my dad is actually an entrepreneur. He actually teaches entrepreneurship, or has taught it at the engineering school here. And he develops his own technologies and licenses them back and started companies. And that was what I was attracted to. I just didn't know what that was. Entrepreneurship wasn't a thing. There was no Shark Tank, and it wasn't cool. This building did not exist when I was in high school, or it existed, but I don't even know what it was. But it wasn't cool like it is now. And so it was only then that I realized that I didn't actually like chemical engineering. And I liked things about it, but I didn't want to be one. And so because of that, my mind was wandering. And so it could have been something else. I always loved t-shirts. Who doesn't, And I was definitely, especially in high school, I was definitely like always got a side hustle of selling shirts or making shirts for this club or this group or whatever. But it could have been something else. It just happened that t-shirts was what landed in my lap to put me on the entrepreneurial path.
So you realized sometime in undergrad that entrepreneurship may be your thing, but you still went on and then got your master's. Was it because you were scared that the printing thing is just a side hustle, it may fall apart, so let's just still do master's and I can still be the professor?
Yeah. I mean, this is something I'm very candidly open about. Is that it took me a long time to reconcile being an entrepreneur, especially at that time when it wasn't as well. It wasn't as well looked upon and well thought of, especially in my background. And so, I think I felt a lot of internal pressure and expectation to graduate, get a second degree, become a professor or something, reach a high academic level. And I think a lot of people feel that. Definitely people that go to college feel that. So I always just kind of was like, I'm doing this t-shirt thing on the side. Like, it doesn't define me, it's not who I am, but I'm just gonna keep doing it. But I spent all my time in it. It's the thing I loved, right? So, that was the dichotomy that I had to reconcile myself. That's what I had to figure out in my own head. And so it was always like, I'm a student, and then I was a grad student, and I do this t-shirt thing on the side, and eventually I had to make the leap, and it was like, no, I can't say I'm a student anymore, because I'm not. And coming to grips with that was part of kind of my path. And I think the thing that when I talk about my story, the thing that most resonates with people is like, I want to be an entrepreneur, but I'm going to college. Like, I can't just drop everything and do that. It's like really tough to come to grips with that. So, and then I think looking back on it, being able to be a good entrepreneur is all about hedging your bets and not just taking risks, but taking the right risks, right? So I've never been a believer in just like all your chips on the table and just drop out and go. That works for some people. It works for Zuckerberg. It doesn't work for everybody. So I think balance until you feel comfortable. So graduating undergrad, I was not comfortable. I wasn't ready to say like this is what I wanted to do. So I just kept going until I was ready to make that leap. And I think that that's something, whether you're a student, you have a job, right, and you're doing your side hustle on the side until you're ready to, depending on your family situation, you might be married, you might have kids. It's just easier when you're in college because you live on ramen and pizza and you don't have a family.
Tell us about the defining moment when you realized, okay, this is it. I know I can pull it off. I'm a good partner. We have a really good thing going on, so let's just focus full time. Was it like a huge investment round that came in, or did you start doing well with sales?
No, there's no defining moment. It's a lot of little moments.
Okay.
It's all just like another step and another step and another step, and then you look back and you're like, oh wow, now I'm here. And so that I would say there's no defining moment. I will say that the big thing that kind of put us over the edge where we were just like in it and there was no going back was 2004 was the year. So I graduated undergrad in 2003. I was getting my master's. I took the slow road on my master's because I took as minimal amount of classes as possible. And 2004 was the big year. It was a big year in Michigan. Just out of curiosity, Scott, you better know what happened in 2004. Sports-wise.
Michigan State.
Wait a minute.
Someone just said it. Pistons. The Pistons won the NBA title in 2004 after 10 years, and then it's been another 13 years. But 1 year, and this was a team like if you know that team, it was like a team of no superstars. No one knew who Chauncey Billups was. No one knew who Tayshaun Prince was. Like these were nobodies, right? Rishi was a great college player. But anyway, so this team came out of nowhere. This was the blue collar team, and so. If you printed T-shirts in Michigan, you were printing for the Pistons in some manner, in some form, and we were printing tons of shirts for the Pistons, and that is what kind of led us down our path because it was really exciting. People were like, "Wow, you're printing for Reebok! You're printing." Reebok was the sponsor for the NBA at the time, and you're printing for Reebok, and you got all these Pistons shirts, and it's super exciting. But we weren't really, it was like low, it was small margins because we were a small printer and we're low on the totem pole. And that's what set us down this path where it's like, this is awesome, we're busy, but this is not what we want to do for the rest of our lives, and how do we change that model up? So that's how we kind of got it going. So if I were going to say a big defining moment was 2004, Pistons won the world title.
That's great. Now, we got a lot of students who are taking entrepreneurship courses.
Yep.
So now there's a trend that you get to learn about all the skills while you are still going to school.
Right.
But back in the day, you were learning from the mistakes. Did you learn from the mistakes? And if yes, how many mistakes did you?
Yeah, definitely. I only learned from mistakes, and we made so many, right? I mean, all the quintessential. The great thing about the business that I'm in and continue to be in is it's a great business to learn business, and you never stop. And so, production, sales, marketing, e-commerce, bricks and mortar, all of it, right? Cash flow, receivables, payables. So, we talk a lot about how you sell a product, you have to collect. It's easy to sell, but you have to collect the money. And at a time when we weren't an e-commerce company, that's what almost put us out. It's like, oh, we sold, that's awesome, we're doing great, but we didn't collect any money from anybody, and we almost went out of business in 3 months. So a lot of little failures along the way, or some big failures along the way, but nothing that's taken us under yet. Knock on wood.
How was the lifestyle? Because we keep hearing that entrepreneurs, if you want to be successful, make sure that you start living a frugal life, because you just make sure that everything that you want to spend on, wait for that shining moment, and then start becoming a big spender. So in the beginning, be a frugal, and then have roommates and crash on couches. How was your lifestyle?
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of your obligations and what you can do. So that's why I think, we always look at young entrepreneurs. We're like, wow, look at that. It's so awesome to have done it when you're young. But that's the easiest time to do it because you have so few obligations, right? Someone who's got family, kids, mortgage, school payments, things like that. That's the tough time to be putting it all on the line, right? So I would say, yeah, obviously you can stretch a dollar further when you're younger, possibly, potentially, and that's not always true. So, I think that's what I did, but it wasn't because I was like, oh, at this point, now I'm going to be able to spend it. It's just it's just everything is steps. It's the grind, frankly. I love the name, Startup Grind, because if you were going to ask me if there was one word to sum this all up, it's a grind. And if you can't embrace the grind, if you don't love that, if you're waiting for this time or day or whatever where it's cool, now I've made it, but you've never made it. Because at any level you get to, it's all the same problems, just on different scale, different level, different dollar amounts, but still the same problems. So you got to love the grind.
Do you think would you be able to solve or get through all the problems that you encountered along the way without the partner that you had? Tell us about your partner.
Yeah, that's a great question. So my partner, like I said, we grew up together. His name's Ryan Gregg, and actually he lived on Gunson Street one summer. He moved back with another one of our friends that we grew up with that still works underground. So there's 3 kids from Okemos that still work in underground printing, and so we grew up together. Both went to Michigan. Both were engineers. Both didn't love engineering, and he ended up.
Engineer in the house, so we have to be careful.
I'm a proud engineer. I have 2 degrees in chemical engineering, but we didn't fall in love with it in the same way. And I would say that the thing that is most defining about having a partner, the thing that has allowed us to be where we are, is straight up, it's trust. We don't have to be best friends, and we don't have to hang out every day together. We don't have to agree with each other. We just have to trust each other, or trust that if we don't agree, no one's going to try to do something without coming to an agreement with the other one. So I have implicit trust, and thus we don't have to do everything together and hang out. So a partner for me is I've just been lucky that trust has always been there, right? The things that I feel are very important, even if he doesn't, he knows to take it seriously, and vice versa. I might just want to pull the trigger on something, but if I know like he's squeamish about it, then I'm not just going to pull the trigger, right? So I think that's where people get in trouble with that is trust. And then of course you have things like pulling your own weight and stuff like that. That's never been an issue for us. And I think to some degree that trust gets built up over time. So do you have to have known your co-founder all your life? No, but it's just a nice way to build up trust, right? And it's a way that's happened. When you meet your co-founder, on 2 days ago or whatever, how can you trust, right? Like how can you build that up? And so that just takes time.
That's great. So if you have to answer this way, do you think the entrepreneurship or your business kind of changed or evolved your personality, or your personality helped you to become a better business person?
Both. I think my personality is fairly trusting and outgoing, and that has always been why I felt comfortable in the world of sales and talking through this stuff with people. But vice versa, I would say that if you've ever met my dad, you would know that that he is the definition of an absent-minded professor, unorganized and always late, including to his own classes. And I'll say that on camera because it's true. And if he ends up watching this, he won't be able to say anything to me because it's absolutely true. But I will say that I used to be like that, and I like to think that I'm not that bad anymore. I have migrated away from being just like my dad, and to a point because you just can't be that unorganized if you're going to be successful. It's very difficult to be that absent-minded, and you have to have someone really great next to you handling all of your stuff, because otherwise you're not going to make it, right? So I would say that. And even so, in my personal life, I'm not as organized maybe as I am business-wise, or not. I don't have the same discipline as I do in my business sense. So I was talking about this the other day with somebody. It's like, look, how I conduct myself in a business standpoint, not like as how do I behave, but like how I handle things is different. And actually, they're even migrating closer together. Like I tend to be the one that's kind of a little more organized nowadays.
So let's talk about some good stories.
Okay.
So it picked up. You start getting more business.
Yeah.
You start opening stores. When do you think it started to really the sales started to improve, and you thought, let's expand? And when you want to expand, what were the hurdles and what were the experiences that you had to go through to help the expansion?
Yeah. So. First thing was just, I would say that our expansion was built off of ego. I will be completely honest. It was like, so I was telling some of you earlier, I'm a Big Ten kid. I was born in West Lafayette, raised in East Lansing, and then went to school in Ann Arbor and lived in a Big Ten town, a college town per se. So I love college towns. I love Madison, I love Bloomington. I like college towns.
Are you just being diplomatic because you're in Spartan land right now?
No, I like college. I really do. More than Ann Arbor, I think Madison is an awesome town. It's got 2 lakes that's sandwiched to the town, and other than the fact that it's freezing, which we're somewhat used to, it's a beautiful place. I will admit that if I had gone to Madison as a high school senior, it would have been hard not to go to Wisconsin, especially if I went in a warm climate. Because my brother lived in Madison for a long time. He learned how to sail and curl in the same town. Where else can you do that, right? So I would say that I love Big Ten towns. I love college towns, right? That's college sports. That's it for me. And so expansion for us was we opened up a store, and I was like, what else? Okay, let's open another store. So surprisingly, you would think that our second store would be in East Lansing, right? But it was in Kalamazoo, because we were from East Lansing. So we wanted to see whether we could do it in another town that we didn't know as well. So our second store was in Kalamazoo, and then our third store was in East Lansing. One thing we had going for us is that we knew this town, and so for those of you, all of you live here, so you know that MAC is a secret gem of a street, right? Because it's where everybody walks through, coming from that side, Charles Street or whatever. But it's basically Grand River. But if you go on Grand River, you're paying Grand River rent, right? And the traffic. So like we got the spot on MAC. It used to be an Alltel cellular store. I don't know if I remember that. So so we opened in 2007. So we've been there for almost 12 years. But that's what we did. We found places that were hole in the walls, or like cellular stores that were out of business, or on cross streets, not main streets, but we knew they were good cross streets. For a long time, we used to say, people were like, oh, how do you find your spots? And we would say, we find the nearest Jimmy John's, and then we set up next to that, because Jimmy John's has got to figure it out. So why are we going to go spend a lot of money trying to figure it out? Now there's so many Jimmy John's, it's not the same, but but back when we were doing this, there weren't as many, right? So expansion for us was, a lot of it was ego. It was like brute force. It was like, we're going to open up seven stores and we don't care, and we're going to make it happen. And a lot of bootstrapping and a lot of driving and late nights and stuff like that. But we were pretty young and we could do it, So in the beginning it was ego, and then it became strategy. So the kind of tipping point for us is when we started to figure out why these things were successful. So I will be fully transparent to say that there was no model where we were like, okay, this is why this is going to work. We were just like, it's working. Let's just keep doing it. And anyone that says otherwise, like it's fully planned out, is lying to you. I mean, the only thing I can say is that we did an okay job of going back and analyzing why things were successful after they were successful. And what we learned with our physical locations was that and the locations we chose was that we learned that they were they were efficient in reaching a large population. That's what college towns are. They're a large population in generally not a big city, right? So prototypical amazing college towns like your East Lansings, like your Bloomingtons, like your Madison, like your Chapel Hill, Austin, Texas. Large population that tends to want to purchase and buy and transact. But they're not big city rents, right? So that's what we really learned why that worked, and we had some learnings with the fact that Google started to really benefit local, right? So all of a sudden, all these people that were paying a lot of money for AdWords, well, we were showing up right under them, but only because we had physical location there. So those things started to tip for us, and that's how we really started to grow. But I mean, there's no hockey stick growth here. This is a grind. We are selling t-shirts. This is a straight line. That's it. And it's like 15% growth or 10% growth or 20% growth. There's no 100, 200, 300. We have verticals that are doing really well, or things that are doing, but overall, we're just growing. And, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's not glamorous. It's a grind, but that's real business. That's probably what most businesses out there do. And I don't find that to be a negative. I find that to be a great thing.
Any stories on competition? Did you fear the competition? Did you even encounter any competition? If yes, how did you manage it?
Yeah, there's tons of competition for sure. I can't remember who said it, but we got lucky that we never really focused on the competition. And there are a lot of people that talk about have great sayings about how if you focus on the competition and not your customer, you're doomed to fail, right? So we never really focused on competition. We've learned from them. But I think the thing about competition is all the best companies will gladly let their competitors in and look at what they do. They all have partnerships and stuff like that, because they know that I could know exactly what they do and still not execute it, because it's all in the secret sauce, right? It's all in the little intangibles that allow you to do what you need to do to make it work, right? You can know that I print a t-shirt and there are lots of people that do it, but there are a lot of little things along the way that make that work that are too hard to explain when you just someone comes in and walks and look at what you do. So there's a lot of competition. There are a lot of great companies out there for sure, and so we try to find our niche and what we do well and focus on that and let everything else kind of fall where it may.
Great. So things started to get better, and then with success came additional income. With additional income, we thought, let's just diversify the portfolio, and then you kind of started venturing into other ideas.
Yeah.
And started an investment firm. I know that you were not working with it full time, but was it an idea that you know what, let's just start investing in other businesses too. Maybe it will help me become like an overnight millionaire one day.
Yeah, no. So yeah, you summed that up quite nicely, but it was not that pretty. No. Basically, I like business, and for whatever reason, when we had started doing stuff or whatever, I had a lot of friends that were starting businesses because we were all in kind of the ecosystem, and I just happened to be okay with kind of putting some money up for that, right? And I had made some money, and rather than spend it on this, that, and the other thing, I was like, I'll help you out. Let's do this, right? And I wanted to start companies and do that, and I thought that was fun. And I guess I just you can learn about business by studying it. I always just learned better when I put my money where my mouth is, so to speak, where I had some like some stake in the game. And so it actually is not about making money at all. Very little of my investments are like, oh, this is gonna hit, because of course there are great ideas that never do. For me, I didn't get an MBA. I was an engineer, and everything I know up until this point and still is from this t-shirt company. So how was I ever going to learn anything else? Well, I had to get in. I had to make some inroads, and so I started investing. And so I always looked at investing as this, like when I invested, and so the angel fund that we started came much later on, and it came because I met like-minded people like myself that had their own money and put it in startups. And it was hard to find people, like my age around doing the things I was doing that were doing the same things. So like a guy that I met, we had a mutual friend. The mutual friend was from Okemos. I went to high school with him, and he went to Michigan, but he lived in Chicago. He had also invested in startups. His name was Arjun Reddy, and we hit it off. And we're like, hey, well, we're both putting in little bits of money in, so why don't we pool our money and it'll look bigger? So then maybe it'll take us more seriously. So that's what we did. That's how we started that. But we had been putting money in along the way in different companies. I'd already had like 6, 7 personal investments and things. I'd started another kind of angel investing company. It was just me, and I made my brother give me some money. My first company was called Mini Seed. So it was like a seed funding company. And so basically I was like, hey, and my brother's name was Rohit. I was like, Rohit, give me some money. And so I just took it from him, and I was like, hey, you're gonna come along with me. And then we started putting some money in stuff. But I look at all investments like I'm not going to get this money back, so I need to extract that amount of knowledge and learnings out of it. So if I can go and I can stay close to the founders enough to learn what they're doing, what they've done wrong, what they're doing right, maybe even apply stuff to things that I'm doing, then it's worth it. And it's on me. The onus is on me to do that every single time. And do I do it every single time? No, but that's on me, right? So that's control that I have. So I've looked at it that way, and I've had a couple exits. Nothing that's made me a billionaire, and I've had companies fail, and I've learned a ton, and I've gotten introduced to lots of different companies, sectors, startups. That it's the reason that I had the ability to teach and get involved in accelerators and stuff like that. So that's really opened up a lot of doors that underground printing helped open up those doors, but that helped me open up doors in the kind of bigger world of entrepreneurship, which is much bigger than just one company, just one business.
So thank you for sharing this, and we got quite a few student entrepreneurs. We also have experienced entrepreneurs. So let's just say if a student entrepreneur or a seasoned entrepreneur comes to you, it's an idea, a couple of questions. What do you normally look in the team or the idea? And then you say if you invest, would you simply pitch in the capital, or do you also become their mentor?
So I have learned the hard way, I won't go into the details of the story, but I have learned the hard way that you always bet on the jockey and not on the horse, because the horse is exciting and it's proven, it's gonna win, it's gonna make it, but it's all about the person driving it and how well they can execute. So I've been burned badly by thinking like, oh, I really like this concept and idea, and they're doing it, and it's great. This guy's not great, but we're here. We're going to mentor him, and we're going to make sure he doesn't fail. And that has failed. That idea that didn't work. And so you are always you're always making your bets on the startup, the founder, the CEO, whatever it might be. That is lesson number one. So in terms of like of the every question, like that's what I would say. In terms of in terms of how, why, what's our kind of investment thesis or whatever, it has iterated over time. I can tell you what it is right now. What it is right now is we like to invest in real companies, real businesses, not startups. And what I mean by that is businesses that need to raise a little bit of money to get started, but then do not have plans to raise again. And I shouldn't even say do not have plans, because that's the story I get all the time. Oh yeah, we're not going to need it. Like, it's just not even what they're thinking. Like, they're not going to raise money again because they're going to sell another product and then make some money and then invest and go from there. I just feel like that's the business that is going to continue to succeed. Like, we are now in this kind of like a lot of people starting a lot of different tech startups and apps, and their path to exit is always about the exit and not about the journey, right? And I would rather invest in a company that plans to get to $2 million, and then when they make it to $4 million, there's a lot of profit that comes off of it. Or $6 million or $10 million. That's what most businesses are. So I'm looking for those companies, and this is really hard to find those companies, really, because everyone has grand schemes of becoming a $100, $200, $500 million company. They're going to need to raise 4 rounds along the way. They have to have a free model for this much time. Now I will say it's getting better over the last couple of years. Like, there are people that are doing cool things and want to make profit, but my question is always, do you love this so much that you're going to do this? You're going to continue to do this, and you no plans to do anything else? And the answer there is usually no.
Well,
and I can't even say I've always had an answer about my business, so that's a tough question to ask.
that's good. And then you also have one of the partners on the Angel Fund, who is also, I believe, MSU's grad, PhD MSU.
Yep.
And then now is a dean at the UMich Business School.
The dean of the Ross School of Business, yeah. And yeah, that's, meet people, make friends, and stuff happens.
So let's just move to your personal interests. It appears that you are a sports fan. You mentioned basketball, but you still bought a soccer team that you were a co-owner of?
Co-founder.
Co-founder.
And co-owner, yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right.
So
tell us about the experience. And
I'm in kind of, yeah, this used to be enemy territory, but now it's not. So I like local community things. That's just part of what I am. I like festivals and events. One of my favorite festivals of all time is the Great Lakes Folk Festival. We still print for the Great Lakes Folk Festival every year. I used to sell at it. I love it, right? And so I like community events. And we have a customer named Detroit City Football Club, and they are well known in soccer, and having created this European Premier League community feeling, this atmosphere in Detroit. And we print for them, and I got to know them. I went out and went to a match, and it was unreal. I mean, it was a great experience, right? And I love great sports experiences, and so it's like, I want to do this too. And so came back to Ann Arbor, talked to some people, and then I met someone who was trying to do the same thing. Brought some people together. We started a minor league soccer team, and it's lots of different stories from there. But basically, it's soccer is football. Sorry, I'm dated. Football football is like made for the local level, right? There's a lot of Twitter battles and banter, and local teams. I mean, you think about like the Premier League, it's all about these local clubs, like small clubs and these stadiums that they have in very small towns. And I think that's something that I've started to feel here. And so we have a team in Kalamazoo, team in Grand Rapids, team in Lansing. Until very recently they moved up, Detroit, Ann Arbor, and we all battle against each other, and it's very local, and it feels really good, and there's a lot of, pardon my French, shit talking, and it's great, right? So that's what this was, but for me, it was a startup again. So it was like another startup with new lessons to learn, new people to meet. Now we're selling sponsorships. I've never done that before. I learned a lot about that, a lot more about content. So like I said, it's all about putting money in and extracting knowledge. So what I've been able to learn from content, the content we create, I've been able to apply time and time again. Lessons I've learned there, I use in so I have a big lesson where after year one with AFC Ann Arbor, we were like, this is great, we're doing great, we got to get more people to these games. So we started putting money in buses and billboards. We put a billboard on 94. We're like, oh, this is going to work. This is going to be awesome. And then we were like, oh, buses that go around town, we're going to put ads on it. You guys have all seen that, like on the CAT buses or whatever. And it was a huge waste of money. Huge waste of money. And it was lesson learned, well learned. And I still use this today. I teach it in classes. Like basically, if you're going to spend marketing dollar, you have to be able to measure it. If you can't measure it, especially at the level we're at, and this is brand building, and most of us can't afford to brand build. Like we need to be able to measure it, so don't get stuck in buses and billboards, right? So, like that's just like a lesson that learned in a startup, and it's not that I couldn't have learned that lesson at UGB, but it's just like a different scale, right? I don't make those mistakes at that scale, but when you're starting out and you're trying to like get something going, it's easier to make mistakes, and the mistakes don't cost you as much, right? So then you can make them, and sometimes it's learning those mistakes again and again and again. So. I love learning a lot, and that's why having another startup was a lot of fun. And now it's 5 years old, amazingly, and we found out like we've kind of put it in its place, so to speak. And now we're learning about sustainability and stuff like that all over again.
Did you guys compete with Lansing United? It used to be a soccer team here, but now we have a professional team coming out, Lansing Ignite.
Yep, so Lansing United was in the PSL in our same conference, and
then we used to beat you guys more often. That's how I got to know Ann Arbor. I'm just making this up. But so you teach at.
There's a record there that I could flaunt, but I'm not.
What's the record?
I'm not going to do that.
What's the record?
I'm pretty sure we have a winning record over Lansing.
That's how this is. But if you go
I might have to text. I'm going to have to text someone.
Okay, so you teach at UMich. Was it because you still loved academia, and also you are married to a PhD chemistry professor?
Yeah.
Is it because you didn't want to leave the chemistry and teaching up at the house, or?
It's because like I couldn't get my own PhD, so I just married a PhD. There's a Dr. Narayan in the family, and it's not me. It's worked out great. I'm only half joking, actually. But no, so I think that I had this opportunity to teach e-commerce entrepreneurship in the Center for Entrepreneurship which is housed in the College of Engineering at U of M. And I like it a lot because much like this place that we're in, it's all about it's multidisciplinary. So it's open to B-school students, but it's not restricted to B-school students. So this is, with poli-sci majors, kines, undecided engineers, and business school. And so that's really near and dear to me because, of course, I was not a B-school major. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and it didn't exist at that time. So that's one of the things I like. And I teach e-commerce entrepreneurship, but I'm going to rename it commerce entrepreneurship because I don't believe that there's just e-commerce. It's and real world. I mean, that all exists now. So. But yeah, it's fun, and why I do it. Yeah, part of me is because I innately, I always I'm an academic son. I had aspired to be a professor at one point in my life, and this was a way to get there, to do that. So I took it.
That's great. Do you read?
Do I read?
Yes. Do you read?
I read articles and listen to podcasts.
That's good. You're gonna open up the floor for questions. I do have one more question, but I'll have audience ask questions first. So please do ask questions, I can share the mic with you.
The mic is not working.
Yeah.
The mic, why, you could have just told me,
We could have just passed this back and forth.
Yeah.
It looked right.
It looked right.
See,
Don't be shy.
Okay.
So how did you say you secured capital again for the teacher company?
How did I secure capital? The old-fashioned way, by borrowing money from our parents and then paying it back, and then borrowing some more and then paying that back. So the old-fashioned way. No, we didn't raise money in the prototypical way that people think about it now, which has its pros and cons.
So do you think there's any new ways that entrepreneurs could explore now that as opposed to like any traditional methods?
Yeah. So the thing I think about that was great about the way that we did it was that when you take someone else's money for real, not your parents for it's nice when you pay them back, but they don't expect you to, right? Hopefully. But when you take when you take my money or you take a VC money, like that's it. Like they're gonna push you. You have onus to them, right? Hedging your bets, having a second job, side hustle, those things won't fly with most of them, right? And rightfully so. Like they've given you money, so that's something to think about. When you get a loan or do friends and family or do it in a more sustainable way, you have more control over your path. And that's really important. That's not something I knew. That's not why we made the decision to do what we did. It was just what was open to us. But looking back on it, it allowed us to grow at our own pace, do what we wanted to do. If we had raised a bunch of money, then maybe there would have been a lot of pressure to grow a lot faster, which would have been exciting and fun and cool, but then also, you have great execution there. So it's a catch-22. And there's actually a company that I've invested in through Shibor, called Stock Manufacturing, and they're a men's clothing company in Chicago, based out of Chicago. I was introduced to them through an accelerator called Generator, which is based out of Madison, Milwaukee. I know the guys that started Generator. I've invested in a couple companies in the cohort. Well, they joined that. And were really excited about being the next big e-commerce company. But they had this really cool business that got them there, which was a B2B business. It was making uniforms for high-end hotels and restaurant groups. And that was it wasn't like a hockey stick growth. It was cool growth. It was more like what I was used to, right? And I thought that business was cool. They were excited about this other thing. And I will go out on a limb and tell them that this is what I think is the blessing that they got, and I think they agree with me. Is they never got anyone else to give them money. It was only us and one other person that was a relative, and because of that, they never were forced to throw fuel on the fire, scale and get all these users, and essentially they would not have made it, because that is the toughest business to be in. The ones that have done it and done it successfully, they're still trying to figure out profitability, right? They had to throw fuel on fire and go, right? This company was able to back off of it. They had less pressure from us. There was no pressure from us because we were all about this B2B business that they were that was unique. They were doing stuff for Soho House and these restaurant groups out of Chicago and these boutique hotels, which are all the rage now, right? Well, all these boutique hotels have custom uniforms made for them. And so they can now grow at their pace. I was just there a month ago where they were talking about their plan. And the plan is not like, oh, we need to double our revenue this year and then triple our revenue the next year. It's like, we're going to slow growth. And for me, if at some point they reach profitability and put out dividends, that's going to be, I can't see anymore. That's going to be exciting for me. So that's what I think that was a blessing in disguise for them, is that they tried to raise money and couldn't. And I think that worked out. So it's just something to think about, is where you get your money from is it affects your decisions, because you are going to get pressure on that.
Thank you.
Great question.
Thanks for the presentation and telling us about your journey. you have a co-founder, right?
I do.
Many times, and I also struggle with this. What are the 4 or 5 things that one should look for when looking for a co-founder? Is it someone I meet here instead of grind?
Yeah.
Is it a friend that I used to go to high school with? Is
Yeah.
it a classmate?
Yeah.
Is it someone I meet at the bar? What are the 2 other things that I look for and say, I think Rishi is, we can push, we can do this thing together.
Well, we can definitely do this together, so don't worry about that. But I can only speak to it from looking back. Like I said, I didn't plan out anything. I can just looking back and tell you what things that worked out for me. A couple of the things that I spoke to trust, right? If you're starting from scratch with somebody, doesn't mean it's not going to work. But it takes time to develop trust, right? And that's going to have an effect. The other thing is that, complementary skill sets, like my partner Ryan and I, we didn't choose to start the business because well, you like to do this and I like to do this, and this is great, right? But that is one of the reasons it worked out, is because we have complementary skill sets, right? So 2 guys that want to be front and center and do all the sales, that may not work. Or 2 people that are heavy into coding and love the idea, that may not work either, right? So complementary skill sets was a blessing in disguise for us. And then trust. I think those are the 2 biggest things. Everything else, I think, is, anyone will tell you there's a good amount of luck, in how that stuff works out. So.
How old are you?
How old am I?
Yeah.
I'm 36.
Just for a frame of reference.
Yeah, wait. I'm 37.
You forget.
I'm 37.
What's the biggest amount of investment that you or you and your group have given or put into a startup?
A company?
Yeah.
Biggest is 100K.
Okay. And then my last question is, I guess, can you talk a little bit about, I would assume that you are one of the few people in a lot of the entrepreneurial business spaces that you go that looks like you, right?
Yeah.
Is that true? Or is there some truth to that? And
There is some truth to that, 100%.
Can you talk a little bit about I guess just what that feels like?
Yeah.
About that?
Yeah. That's a very solid question. It's an important question, right? I think when I was younger, I didn't feel it as much, but times have changed, things have changed, and I'm also older, I have kids now, so these things present themselves to me a little bit more. I think that someone else, but representation matters. When you see people that look like you doing things, it opens up doors and ideas for you, right? When you see, you see, your culture, your race, your national heritage on TV, on the cover of magazines, having started companies, maybe refugees that have accomplished things, right? That makes a difference. And, I think people that stick out to me are people that look like me, have had similar experiences that I've had. I'm first generation, right? So that comes with its own set of nuances and struggles or whatever, versus coming to this country for the first time. That's in itself has its own set of struggles, right? And so I think that the thing for me is its representation. So more people that are doing it makes it just more comfortable, right? It makes it more accepted for those of us that feel like, oh, I can't do that, or how am I going to explain that to somebody, or how am I going to open that, door? Well, it's a slow grind. It's a grind again. It goes back to the grind thing. But that's why I think we see it first in pop culture, in my opinion, right? When you're exposed to something in pop culture, it becomes part of the mainstream, right? I talk about Shark Tank a lot, and Shark Tank, has its negatives for sure. But it made entrepreneurship cool in the popular culture, right? All of a sudden, the hit TV show was about business. That's ridiculous, right? These people became stars, like Kevin or like Lori Greiner. Who knew who Lori Greiner? I don't know who buys on QVC. Who knew who Lori Greiner was? But now the people know who she is. People knew who Cuban was, and some people knew who Damon John was, right? But you know, Mr. Wonderful, like more people probably know who Mr. Wonderful is than most actors these days, right? So now it's in the pop culture, it's mainstream, then you have a couple more shows like The Prophet and this and that, and now all of a sudden it's cool, right? And I think you can find other examples of that aren't business related, but maybe it's still not enough, right? And so I think that this representation opens up doors and makes you believe.
First
Right.
generations. And then last question, I think I heard you say that you have kids.
I do, yes.
What are some of your thoughts about introducing them to entrepreneurship, facilitating the business mind without imposing, the shop on them?
Yeah, that's a great question. I have not thought I've not thought about that. It's not a thing. I don't think it would be something where like, okay, you're gonna start a business. They're either gonna see me doing it, they're gonna love it, or they're not, right? It's either gonna like spark something in them or it's not. And it's gonna come at the right time. So no, I don't think it would be like something like, oh, why don't you sell something or do something? They're either gonna like side hustle because they think it's cool, or I mean, that's how I think most of us do that. So I don't think it would be something, that gets forced. I mean, frankly, by the time they get to college, I don't know if people will go to college. Like, I don't know. I mean, sorry, I know we're in state, right? This is why it's good that my dad is not going to see this. But anyway, yeah, I mean, like we just don't know. I don't know what the path is going to be. So to assume that oh well, they're going to do these things, that's a little bit tougher. I'm probably going to be tougher on because I want them to play the sports I played, because then I can connect with them on that than I will be about the business side of it.
But knowing his kids, one of them at least will definitely become an entrepreneur. They will sell something. I sat down with them once at the dinner table.
They're a handful, so yeah, that's probably true. Yeah, for sure.
Do we have more questions?
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
So earlier on you spoke about from the perspective of venture capital.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just thinking, I'm curious. You are both an entrepreneur and an investor, right? There are entrepreneurs that would not touch an investor's fund.
Yes.
There are those entrepreneurs that all they sit and dream about is the investor that will bring the money.
Yes. That's success for them.
That's
Having
success for them.
Yeah. Yes.
So, what's a blueprint? What would you tell a young startup who appears to be struggling?
I think there's not and that's based on the case. There's not a singular answer there. I will say that I started getting into investing because I thought that my net path was going to be, I want to be a venture cap, I want to be a VC. I think that's so cool. Give money to businesses, learn about them. That's what I want to do. So I felt like I had to start doing it in order to get into that world, right? And I'm glad I did, because I learned I do not want to be a VC. Because that's just what they need to do. Show a return, raise money, like that is not something that's attractive to me. Like, that's not what I want to do. What I would tell somebody that is looking that's struggling, right, is, you need that initial bit of startup capital. At the end of the day, business for eons has been about making and selling something for more money, selling something for more money than you made it for, making a profit, investing that profit, and then doing it again, and then doing it again, and then doing it again. And if you root yourself in that, then you don't need other people's money. And yeah, you might hamper your growth because you can't grow fast enough. And so maybe you take a risk there or whatever, by whatever mean you can. But if you need to raise money in order to be successful again and again and again, that's okay. That's true that there are companies that have done it, but that's just, that's a lottery thing, for me. So when I say I like real business speak, I'm by no means am I saying that tech startups are not real businesses. I'm saying that there are lots of people out there that think that raising a round of money is success, and people will look at them like, oh wow, that's a great entrepreneur, that's a great storyteller, right? there are a lot of people that can can spin a great story and raise some money. They're like, they used to sell like snake oil and stuff like that back in the day too. So, telling a great story is not necessarily being a great entrepreneur. They can go hand in hand for sure, but there are those that gladly push that up to somebody else. I don't know if that answers your question. But.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you think that when someone invests in a business, I know it comes with a lot of pressure for the entrepreneur to
Yeah.
succeed. Does that pressure sometimes stifle the business?
Yeah, for sure. I think so. I think that's why you have to be very careful about taking money and designing your business to take money. Because at that point, there's been a lot written about like what's the VC model, like how does a venture capital firm succeed? It's not from 10 investments having nice modest returns. That's not success for them. Success for them is all of them failing except for one blowing up. Okay, so what is their incentive? Is to find the one that's going to blow up and throw fuel on the fire, right? Well, all the other ones get blown up because of it. So, and I'm not labeling all VCs that they don't care or anything, but that is pretty prototypical of the model of how a venture capital firm is successful. So that's how they return money to their partners. So that inherently is flawed in terms of like a company that wants to hit $1 million. So you're not going to excite a VC and even a lot of angels by saying, I need some money because I want to run a $5 million business. But that's a great business. There's not a lot of businesses that hit $5 million or $1 million for that matter.
Have you ever diversified your investment in a business as purely educational? Because money wasn't the issue, even though that was asked?
100%. My most recent educational investment was because I was a little bit of money, so to speak, but for a business that I don't really know that much about, but I think the two guys that started it, I've known them for a little while. I kind of watched them grow up in college, so to speak, and I think they're awesome. And I don't know if this is going to be the business or not, but I wanted to help them out. And I figured that, and I know that helping them out at the beginning stages, they're always going to keep me in the loop, even if I'm not on the board or whatever. They recently came back for another round. I was like, no thanks guys, but good luck, because that's not why I did it. I think they are going to be successful. I just don't know if this is the company that's going to do it. It's a growth, scale, raise money thing. And they have the connections to do it without me. So.
Any more questions?
Touch really quickly on the cultural influences that your parents have from another place,
Yeah.
and how that affects you specifically, and how it motivates you to succeed in your business.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, I was lucky. Luckier in that my dad was an entrepreneur, even though and an academic, right? So while I still felt a cultural pressure to succeed and be an academic or be in a professional environment, I was never like stop running this business, right? It was like do that, but make sure you get this done too, right? So that was lucky for me. Not everybody has that. Some people feel a lot more pressure, and it's not just my culture, it's lots of cultures, right? And that is the thing that I think hopefully people, if I've done anything right, it's like, hey, this is how I did it. It's not the only way, it's not the right way, but I'm a big believer, and yeah, you can have your cake and eat it too. You can hedge your bets, you can do two things at the same time. You just can't do it and grow your company and take other people's money and grow it to $10 million, right? No, you gotta do both things well. I call it the fast B. I learned a long time ago that, I think in high school, I wanted to be an A student, and that was important. Like academics were supremely important, and I had a physics teacher in high school who taught 3 ways to solve a problem: slow A, fast B, and faster C. And I was like, why does anyone care about the other two? Like, of course, just the A, right? Well, looking back on it now, my whole life after that is all about fast B. Like, I'm a fast B kind of guy, which is like, I'd rather get pretty close, almost there, but get there a little bit faster, and that's more important. That's not how I was raised. That's not how I was raised, right? But it's like been self-defining for me, and following that has been very important. To the point where like my favorite class that I took as a chemical engineer was the senior design 1, which is all about back of the envelope calculations. It's like, oh, scale that up by multiplying by 2, like with, you know, it's like algebra, right? It's algebra, not calculus. And so I think that is something that I adhered to, and you know, I just had to figure that out myself. So I look back on it now, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like, learn, you know, there are 3 ways to solve this problem.
That's great.
As far as your academic experience, what do you think was the most applicable, or what do you appreciate the most and is the most applicable to your business now?
Yeah.
Obviously, since it was a completely different direction, but I think there are probably still valuable things to take.
1,000%. And for all the engineers in the room, I love engineering. I actually just like recently reconnected with my department and they wrote an article. So I actually recently just had to think about all of this stuff. So it's a great question. And so they were like, well, quantify this. Like, what was it? And what engineering did, chemical engineering specifically, but engineering did, it's not about the chemistry or the mechanics. It's about taking it, scaling it up, and presenting that information. So the fact of the matter is with every problem set, every project that we did, it wasn't just enough to do the project. We also had to present it, right? So my slideshows were on point. You know, you get some grade on you know, like, did everything match up, and how's your presentation, and did it flow? And then just number crunching, right? I mean, engineering is all about spreadsheets and number crunching. So for me, like, that didn't go away. Like, it's all analytical in that regard, right? You still need those skills. So having that, and then taking analytical ideas and then presenting on them in a way that can be absorbed by a general population, I mean, that is a pitch in a nutshell, right? So that's engineering is really great for that, and I'm sure, I guarantee it's the same here, and most great engineering schools are like that.
Well, Rishi, thank you so much.
No problem.
We do appreciate that you came all the way from Ann Arbor.
I'm just staying at my mom and dad's house. I'm not that far. Don't worry.
Thank you for sharing the wisdom. It was kind, humble. We want you to succeed, because if you succeed, you will just make the Lansing region proud. So,
Thank you.
all the best. Keep up with the entrepreneurial journey. I know you will have a lot more to share.
Thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.
If you didn't know by now, the Start Grind guest always gets a gift.
Not in this bag, though. I don't know where you got the color.
Yeah. So we always try to make something. And so I started thinking about the gift, and like, he can make a t-shirt for anything he wants. So I really had to like think about this. And what we came up with, well, first of all, you get a Start Grind hat.
Oh, sweet.
Okay.
That I would say for sure. Thanks.
Okay.
That's awesome.
And then I went into your store, and I'm like, okay, there's all these t-shirts, but you know, you can have any of them you want. So we took the packaging from your bags,
Oh, sweet.
and we made it into like a business card or change
that's
purse.
awesome.
And so it's got your little logo on it.
That is super
UTP.
cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. That's really thoughtful. Thanks so much. That's really cool. That's really cool. That's a great idea. I'm gonna put my business cards, my 6 business cards in there. I don't even carry business cards, but this is awesome. Thank you. That's really cool. I appreciate that.